We know that we have all of these other events and we have people coming from all parts of the world, and we're excited to welcome them to Boston. But we are not losing sight of the fact that we have our daily riders, and our daily riders still need to get between A and B. I don't want transportation to be the reason why someone cannot get to an appointment or an event or a daily job. That is the backbone. That is the foundation of what we are doing.
Welcome back to Spilling the Tea, the podcast where we take you behind the scenes to meet the people shaping the present and future of the MBTA. I'm Andrew Cassidy of the MBTA's Customer and Employee Experience Department. While most people are still making their summer plans, the MBTA and its partners are already planning for summer 2026. Next year, Massachusetts will welcome hundreds of thousands of visitors to the region for the FIFA World Cup while also celebrating the 250th anniversary of the nation. Joining us today is Erika Mazza, the MBTA's Senior Advisor for Special Projects, who is helping lead the planning efforts for these events. Bringing more than 20 years of leadership experience across operations, federal policy, and community-based planning, Erika is helping the T prepare for the logistical, operational, and strategic demands of 2026, and ensuring we meet the moment for our riders and visitors alike. Erika, thank you so much for joining us today.
Good morning.
Erika, you've led transit systems, advised at the federal level, and now you're working at the MBTA as the Senior Advisor of Special Projects. Can you share a little bit about your background, what this new role entails, and what drew you to this position?
I found an interest in transit several years ago when I was working in community development. I felt that there was always this tie to the community that I just could not put my finger on. And I was working in land use, I was working with affordable housing, all very important things that, are significant to the fabric of a community. I was then asked to participate in a grant writing exercise with our local transit authority. And when I started looking at their metrics and looking at the numbers and really seeing how many people they move a day and where they move people and the past programs that they had for kids and college students, seniors, et cetera, it was just this light bulb went off and it was, wow. Transit really does move a community. And from that point forward, there was no looking back. I wound up eventually running that transit system as their CEO for a number of years. Shout out to Mountain Line in Flagstaff, Arizona. And then from there, I wound up, working with larger systems to better understand the complexity of other transit systems, other modes, working in other communities like Las Vegas and LA, Austin, Texas, helping them start up their big Project Connect, which was bringing in a whole host of light rail and BRT lines into an area that continues to grow at a very fast pace. And then got the opportunity to work at the federal level with FTA in the last administration. And that was pretty remarkable because you were working on delivering on regulations and delivering on guidance, and then also rolling out the grant programs and attending the ribbon cuttings and seeing all of the work that with federal investments, what these communities were doing on the transit space from Alaska to Puerto Rico, from Maine to Southern California. And that gave me a true understanding that transit absolutely not only moves that small community in Flagstaff, Arizona, but it really moves every other community that has a transit presence. So when I had the opportunity, when I met General Manager Ang, and we started talking about a potential future for me at MBTA and the FIFA program and all these other special projects that he was listing off, the excitement, was tenfold again because it was bringing me and my family back home. We're all from New England. We had just been gone for quite a number of years. So this is really,
back.
Thank you. Had my first lobster roll, I think 12 hours in. So, I was quickly indoctrinated back to the New England culture. And it was, really an important thing for us, one, to come back to family, come back to the home area, but then also come back to a transit agency, which was the first transit system that I ever rode. When I was 5 years old and going to, Red Sox games or going up to Bunker Hill or what have you. I remember riding the T at that time. I remember the story that my dad would tell me about Charlie, always looking for Charlie on the T when we were kids. And, here we are. So it was a full circle moment for sure for myself and then also for the family. But now to be able to be a part of something so large like FIFA is really a huge, professional dream come true. Working with every part of this organization certainly has afforded me the opportunity to quickly meet the people who are really moving the Massachusetts Bay Area on a daily basis.
And it's not even just FIFA. You decided to come on board when in the same year we're having FIFA. We're celebrating the 250th anniversary of the country. And I'm sure we'll see at least a couple people coming to Boston to celebrate.
Just a few.
Tall ships are back. I mean, really, everything's kind of happening. Summer 2026. Look out.
It's going to be a big year. And you're right. We put a lot of emphasis on FIFA because it's going to be 7 World Cup games down at Gillette Stadium, which will be rebranded for the period of time as Boston Stadium. There'll be people here in Boston for the fan festival itself. But then, there will be people because we play such an important role in the U.S. history here and along the Eastern Seaboard that will be coming to celebrate the 250th. I think that is going to be even bigger than what we are anticipating right now. So yes, that entire next summer, it is going to be probably some of the biggest parties that we have seen, the biggest activities we have seen, in a long time. So really excited to be able to participate in that and to help not only move the visitors that are coming here, but then also, really continue our focus on making sure that our regular riders, our daily riders, those who rely on the T, are continuing to be able to do so.
So what does the planning itself look like? My brain is struggling to grapple the amount of people and the number of variables and concurrent events taking place at the same time. So how does the work start? What are the key milestones as we kind of inch closer? I went to the FIFA website. They have the countdown and, all of a sudden anxiety levels start going up. So as you stare at that countdown probably every day, where are you kind of metering this as we get closer? Where do we need to be to determine schedules, to determine X, Y, and Z, to know how many people actually are coming?
I want to give a lot of credit to Boston 26, which is the host committee for our games, which will be held down at Gillette Stadium. And so the Boston 26 team, City of Boston, City of Foxborough, all of our partners, MassDOT, the administration, Massport as well, Amtrak, we are all meeting on a regular basis. We have broken out into certain committees. We have a very robust safety and security committee that meets regularly. We have a communications committee. We have a transportation committee, and we have a host of other external committees that the larger groups meet on a regular cadence and continue their planning process. Internally at the T, we've stood up about 14 internal committees where we are looking at everything from volunteer to operational services to ticketing and fare media to communications and wayfinding, to name a few, and then also a very big one, and to be underscored, is capital improvements. We are looking at, and we are in the final planning stages of building a new, fully accessible level boarding platform at Foxborough Station so that we can move the number of people that we are anticipating to move. Going backwards, I think, to the beginning part of your question, when we first started going through some of the static modeling exercises, we learned that there's going to be about 35,000 people who will be traveling to the stadium on match days that are ticket holders. And of those 35,000 people, those are the individuals that we are trying to intercept on public transit. And so early on, our GM Ing, and others have determined that we can move about 20,000 passengers by the commuter rail line from South Station and potentially other points to Gillette Stadium for game day matches. And so we've been keenly focused on ensuring that we have the right resources and the right infrastructure to be able to make that happen. That's at least 4 times more than what we typically do for an Army-Navy game, for Taylor Swift. It certainly is much greater than what we do for regular concerts or Patriot games.
I think that's something that's super unique to Boston as well. I just got back from Pittsburgh, and there are multiple stadiums right in the downtown. Same thing in Miami. Everything's pretty close. Like all these major cities, they have their stadiums pretty close to downtown. But there's going to be a lot of mobility required since, Gillette Boston Stadium is out in Foxborough. It's a unique challenge that transit is also uniquely poised to be able to address.
You're absolutely right. And we do have a unique opportunity and a unique challenge. Our stadium is one of the farthest away from a city center. To your point, you have Arrowhead Stadium, Kansas City Stadium, Dallas stadiums, et cetera. They are all accessed by bus mostly.
Yeah.
We have a rail station right at Gillette Stadium. And so we do have a very unique opportunity that even though we are one of the farther stadiums away from the city center, we do have that direct access. And so we're going to capitalize on that. And then that will hopefully help free up some of the road travels, to your point, for other mobility opportunities. So whether that is bringing in additional bus service from other parts of the bi-state area. So, being able to bring bus service directly from different points in Rhode Island or out from, the areas of Worcester or even far up north directly to the stadium, that will allow us to have that balance and work with Boston 26 to provide that type of service while we are providing our service directly on our commuter rail line.
So we know infrastructure plays a big role in this. Can you share a little bit about the decision-making around Foxborough Station? Any upgrades that are being considered to support service there in advance of these matches? What sort of decisions are being made regarding prioritization to get this station ready? And speaking of readiness, will everything be ready in time for that first match?
Infrastructure is so critical in order for us to move the number of people that we are committing to moving between the greater Boston area, most predominantly, and this stadium down in Foxborough. There is an existing low-level platform with what they call a mini high, that if someone has ADA accessibility needs, they could meet the train at a level boarding. But in order for us to move 20,000 people by train per game, per match, we would need to extend that level boarding all the way for the entire span of the train sets, which is about 800 feet, so that people can come up to the level boarding as you have in other stations, right?
Yep.
If you're on the subway, you don't need to walk up a flight of stairs to get to the doors of the subway line. It's that level boarding that allows everyone to just walk off the platform and onto the subway or the train and then walk off. This is an important priority for the T as a whole. We continue to open up new stations that are accessible. We just did so a couple weeks ago. We continue to have more stations that are under construction. We have an incredible in-house team. We have incredible third-party contractors who we are working with. And Foxborough Station was on the list for a couple years out. So it was already in our queue. We were just able to move it up with third-party contract partners. They're taking on a bit more work because we also have our ADA accessible station developments that we have been working on for a number of years. And so that whole team is continuing to work on all the other improvements, and we continue to deliver on all of the stations that are in that queue. And with our third-party partners, we have been able to also add this particular station to the development in the next year so we can advance all of these necessary projects at once.
And the nice thing for, regular riders outside of FIFA, these are permanent.
These are legacy investments to our system.
So
absolutely.
Anyone who would have been taking commuter rail to Foxborough, whether just to explore the community or more likely than not go to a game, they will have the advantages of that level boarding, making it that much more accessible to that many more fans of any sport that might be performing there or musical performances, what have you.
Absolutely. And that ultimately should allow us to have more trains being available to future games, future concerts, future activities down there as well, because we can move more people in that same fashion. So it really is a legacy investment for that area. I was down there this morning. I met a family from Chicago. They were actually doing a U.S. history tour. They were in D.C., Philly, and now in Boston.
Awesome.
They opted to stay in the Foxborough area, utilize our commuter rail parking lot there, and to take the train into Boston so they could share the Freedom Trail and, other historic opportunities with their children today. And they took advantage of the Mini High platform. And it was my opportunity to explain to them what investments we were going to be groundbreaking just in the next month. And they were really excited, and they were excited to come back in a future date because they were from Chicago and hopefully see all of this completed. So yes, regular riders, visitors who, really weren't expecting, they weren't sure what they were expecting, that they will also be able to utilize this going forward. And excited to note that we are breaking ground later this summer and should be finished by springtime. Certainly we will be finished by the World Cup. And again, that is an 800-foot level ADA accessible platform. And we will also have a temporary structure on the far side. It's double tracked on the far side, on the neighborhood side, that will allow us additional boarding opportunities, not only for the World Cup games, but when there are other major events there where we have the demand. So we'll be able to bring that structure in and out as needed.
So when it comes to FIFA, there's kind of like two different worlds that are happening. We have the Boston Stadium side of things, and we have the downtown Boston side of things. And I believe FIFA's estimating around 500,000 visitors. So I know 20,000 are going to be on commuter rail, hopefully 35,000 at the stadium, but that still leaves a lot of other people that may be coming to support, but maybe not there. I know FanFest is going to be in the downtown area. So you have this kind of split approach where you have these kind of two areas where people are going to be kind of going back and forth. I imagine there might be some level of tailgating or the like. How are you preparing for that level of an influx? I mean, the population of Boston's around 600 and something thousand. You're adding almost the full population to that just from FIFA. Then you're going to add in, whatever tourist population we get, which I think is usually around a couple 100,000 there as well.
The numbers add up, don't they? Right.
And again, but with double Boston physically present, how are we also able to continue providing service for our day-to-day riders who
Absolutely.
are still, going to work, who are still going to school, who are, wherever it is they need to go?
I cannot underscore enough that that is what we are planning for, is that, yes, we know that we have all of these other events and we have people coming from all parts of the world, and we're excited to have them and welcome them to Boston and the greater, New England area. But we are not losing sight of the fact that we have our daily riders, and our daily riders still need to get between A and B. And like I said at the top of the podcast, my professional statement is that, I don't want transportation to be the reason why someone cannot get between A and B or cannot get to an appointment or an event or a daily job. And so that is the backbone. That is the foundation of what we are doing. And we are keeping our daily riders, in mind every step of the way. So when we are looking at how we need to do some additional service delivery, we start with the daily rider and then we build from there, and understanding that over these 39 days, there will be an incredible influx of people coming to this region. Most likely, from the modeling I'm seeing, there's not enough hotel space in the greater Boston area. So, one of the unknowns is, where is everyone else going? What other parts of Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Hampshire, Maine, are they going to be coming from? And where our system is going to be able to support movement for them coming in and around, the FanFest area. Those are big pieces of our puzzle. Another really big piece is the fact that, we do have people coming from all over and, our wayfinding and how people can navigate throughout our system. So we will have an enhanced ambassador program. So more people at the stations, more people, answering questions. We will ensure that, our website and MBTA Go app and all of our devices and all of our communication tools have an ability to speak to FIFA and speak to the needs of people in the area. We will work with the host committee and FIFA on multilingual opportunities and communication tactics as well. But getting back to the wayfinding piece, the wayfinding at the stations, is so important. It's important to our GM. It's important for someone who has recently returned to Massachusetts and to the T, and being able to effectively, understand how to get between an A and a B. So I was recently at some of the downtown stations with the wayfinding team, and we were talking to other individuals and we were talking amongst ourselves as to, do we have the right signage? Are we really being as clear as we possibly can in directing people how to get between this line and that line, or even how to get, to this bus line, or how to exit a station? We have an incredible foundation with our wayfinding right now. And so we are excited as part of this whole process to enhance that as well. So hopefully everyone will have a, seamless and easy travel time.
What about, I guess, the broader rider experience? So beyond wayfinding, what other considerations are you and your team, and I guess the MBTA as a whole, making as we think about making sure that the MBTA leaves a positive impression? As you said, that we are not the sticking point for a bad time, but in fact, we help them, really explore. Because I tell this to everyone who asks me for tourist recommendations when they come to Boston. I said, well, first and foremost, get yourself a Charlie card, or now you can tap and go, or tap and ride rather. But we are such a connector. And while I'm sure these are diehard fans, I'm assuming they're going to want to explore even beyond the different soccer matches. They're going to want to see the Freedom Trail. They're going to want to go out and explore all that Massachusetts has to offer. Forget even downtown Boston. You can go anywhere and everywhere. How are we working to make sure that that rider experience is a positive and memorable thing?
I think those who are coming to this region are going to be in for a welcome surprise, because of the fact that, if I am showing up for a soccer or football match, and it might be their first time here, or they might have been here before, but then also it being, the 250th anniversary, there's going to be so many other things, to your point, that they are going to be able to take advantage of and to see and to be a part of and to experience. And so the wayfinding piece is going to be critical, so that, we're trying to reduce the amount of confusion and assisting riders in moving seamlessly. Mention the multilingual communication and how it'll be integral as key touch points to ensure that, all non-English speakers and visitors from diverse backgrounds feel supported and, can navigate the system. And really working on and working with our existing digital tools and signage to design and offer real-time guidance at many of our locations. That information is critical to our regular riders. It'll be critical to those who are first-timers navigating our system. We really want everyone to be able to navigate our system confidently and independently. And so with all of those pieces in mind, and also with our app and having that available on the FIFA webpage and on, the host city's webpage, so that people can be drawn to our website and our trip planner, that is our hope, that people will take advantage of that as well. And then, also it goes without saying that, the people really is what's going to make it the experience that hopefully everyone leaves with a positive, lasting impression, and the people at the T, the volunteers, the ambassadors, the operators, the conductors, everyone that contributes on a daily basis to making our system work is really going to be what people are going to remember, and how people are going to remember a positive experience. And I think one of the pieces that someone said not that long ago is that if we're not talking about transit after the World Cup, then we truly have succeeded.
It'll definitely be a challenge, but one I'm sure the MBTA will rise to meet. We are still a year out.
Yes.
Which is great, because it means there's time to plan. It means you're out in front of things. Considerations are being made, decisions are being made. But at the end of the day, there's also just so many unknowns. And I think this is something that I find quite remarkable about what you and your team are doing. You touched upon it earlier with the modeling, but there's a lot of pieces we don't understand or know yet. Obviously, there's things like, the weather, which, who knows? It's New England. It could be snowing. But, we don't even know like match times and match day. Like there's like so many different pieces that are pretty cornerstone that are still kind of out there in the ether. So can you tell me a little bit about like the modeling? You pulled back the curtain for me a little while back, but even just showing the different makeup of the audience that might be coming in and the different makeup of visitors, obviously depending on which countries end up, will depend on which languages things need to be translated into. I mean, there's so many pieces, but I personally find that just absolutely fascinating. So if you could just kind of talk a little bit about that whole modeling process and how you're basically planning for every eventuality.
Absolutely. And I think, the uncertainty plays a significant role in planning events on this scale. I mean, we have right now, I think, 3 or 4 different service plans that are under development for the commuter rail service to Foxborough. And that is because to your point, we don't know when the match times are. And so what our service looks like for a noon match is very different than what our service could potentially look like for a 7 p.m. or 9 p.m. match time, and that we are committing to moving the 20,000 passengers. But what that looks like in other parts of our system needs to be looked at in detail. And, a Friday afternoon match in summertime in that part of Massachusetts, we all know what 495 looks like.
Yep.
So how we measure and how we manage even just the match times is going to be absolutely critical to our success. Our challenge, because we will not know match times or even who is playing until December or January. So we have a very tight window of getting all of this done and getting it done right, and with the right amount of resources. So that's why we are doing so many scenario plannings right now, so that it's kind of a really large playbook. If you think about, even a football game and you pull a page out and say, okay, this is the play we're playing right now. That's exactly what we are doing. And so we moved from the static modeling to more of a dynamic modeling where we are really digging in and really understanding what it means in terms of a day in the life of. Actually, later this week, we are taking an entire day and we're walking through what a day in the life looks like and seeing where we are strong and where we still have work to do in terms of, do we have the right resources? Do we have the right people at the table? Do we have the right fill in the blank? I am so thankful that we are doing this now and not 6-8 months from now. So we will build off of those models and now moving it into more of that dynamic level of service. I think the other big piece of what I can say about the planning piece is that we are certainly looking at other entities who have gone before us. And so we are fortunate to have a partner like Keolis, who has been a part of the Paris Olympic Games, Olympic and Paralympic Games. They were also a part of the World Cup Games in Qatar as well. And so they're bringing their real world experience back and helping us better plan for our services here. So, I mean, even to the point where, we're talking about, do we have wristbands for people so they know what train to get on at the end of a match to make it even more efficient? It goes without saying that, if you have 2 rival teams, how do you manage and navigate through those pieces? But then also, if you have teams that are moving just between Philly and New York, New Jersey and Boston, they're going to be traveling in a very different way than if you're traveling from Seattle to Boston, if you're going with your team. So how does all of that play into the equation? So with all that, we are certainly focused on those who came before us. And one of the data points that sticks with me is that, it is like planning. We have 7 matches. So it's like planning for 7 Super Bowls.
Wow.
All at once. Right. So, that has not been done before here. So we are taking this as a huge opportunity that we have a lot in front of us to be able to do that, and 39 days of folks around for the Fan Fest as well. So 2026 is going to be, certainly, as we've said, a year to remember. And we are certainly excited that we are going to be a part of all of those components. We do have some of our own internal and historic pieces. I mentioned, we had the Taylor Swift concert. We had Lionel Messi come, and play, and he's playing again this summer here as well. So, I mean, our playbook is partially written. We are also working with LA Metro. They are putting together a full mega game playbook because, believe it or not, we've not had one of those before. And so we are working, us and the other host cities are working with LA Metro on developing this playbook to ensure that, when the next big series of events are coming forward, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. That's one of the best things about transit is that we can look to our partners to the south or north or wherever and find best practices and utilize those to help enhance our system and our services. So that playbook is going to be critical. It's going to be critical because we are now entering into the decade of America's Games. We've heard that from the administration, where we start with the World Cup and we have 2 Olympics. We have summer first and then Winter Olympics in Salt Lake. And then in between them, we have Rugby World Championships and we have the Women's World Cup that is coming to the United States as well. And so there is going to be a flurry of mega games coming to the United States in the next 10 years. And so another big push that we are also part of is we are looking to the federal government for $400 million, which is collectively the need of all the transit agencies who are supporting the 11 host cities in the United States. So 26 total transit agencies throughout the United States and what their operational needs are to provide transit. And so with that $400 million in operating assistance that we're asking for the federal government for, we are hoping to then be able to provide the level of service that we've talked about. We don't want to fall farther back in terms of, operating deficits. Many transit systems are, just kind of right on that cusp of, coming out of the pandemic, having adequate funding to provide daily service. And so we don't want this to take away from. So we are working with counterparts across the United States to kind of put in place a dedicated funding source for not only the World Cup, but also for future mega games. So transit agencies have some operational assistance funding to be able to support these games going forward.
I really like your comparison to the playbook. And I think it's a great kind of visual because that's really what you're doing. You're just feverishly drafting this playbook for every eventuality and waiting to see when it's time to, call the play and hike the ball. When does that shift happen for you? I know there's certain things that are already in motion, like Foxborough and things of that nature. But when is the moment when you know which play to run for FIFA and I guess just for the summer of 26?
Really what it comes down to is we have the dates. We have the 7 matches. We know what days of the week that they're on. We just don't know the times. We do not know who's playing. Hopefully we will have that understood around the December timeframe, that brings us right into the first part of 2026 and having us, actually do service planning the first couple months of 2026. And the reality is we need to be good and done and dialed in probably, no later than March of 2026, and understanding that there will be possibly some refinements, as ticket sales go, as other things, last minute things become available, including, weather forecasting and the like. But we are planning for almost every contingency that we can think of, and we'll be able to kind of pull those pages out, and be responsive to what the needs are in that given day. That first game is going to be so critical because that first game and the success of that first game and what we will learn immediately after that Saturday game, is really going to set the cadence for the remaining 6 games, but then also how, we need to evaluate and course correct if there's anything that we need to do for the remainder of those 40 some days. And I also, if I could for a moment, the other piece about the playbook is that, it is not being done in a vacuum at all. The amount of partnership that we had, I've spoken about a few, but the reality is that the partnership is so vast, even to the point where we're talking with, the police departments at the city of Foxborough and the Greater Attleboro Taunton Regional Transit Authority is talking about what level of service they're providing and, ensuring that we have service coming in from Rhode Island and working with RIDOT and RIPTA as well. So, it is so multifaceted in terms of the number of partners that we have. They contribute to that ultimate playbook, not only for the games to be able to go off, but also for us.
So it's probably impossible to imagine right now, but looking ahead to, let's say, the fall of 26, we're through all of these different things. FIFA's behind us, tall ships, 250. What does that success look like to you? What is a successful job for the MBTA with hosting this many major events?
We always want to look at the end goal in mind, and so it's for us being able to continue to deliver our seamless, reliable, and welcoming transit experience, not just for the thousands of visitors that will be navigating Greater Boston for the first time, but most importantly, for our daily riders. They are our cornerstone, and we want riders, both local and visitors, to feel confident that they can get where they need to go efficiently and comfortably. We really want to make sure that we have minimized delays and provided clear communication. We've delivered our infrastructure projects on time, and we've ensured accessibility. Ultimately, that success is measured how well the system supports the city's energy, really, and the excitement during these major events while setting a new standard for everyday service. And, ultimately, the success in 26 isn't just about a moment. It's about setting a new standard for how MBTA serves the region long after that spotlight fades.
Well, it sounds like we're in pretty good shape. I think we've prepared for every eventuality outside of maybe a Sharknado, but maybe that's even in your playbook. I don't know.
We'll add that.
Erika, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
A big thank you to Erika Mazza for joining us today and for the work she's doing to make sure the T and Massachusetts are ready to move the world in 2026. If you have a question or ideas for future episodes or just want to share your thoughts, we'd love to hear from you. Email us anytime at social@mbta.com. I'm Andrew Cassidy, and this has been Spilling the Tea.